If you ever struggle to figure out where to get started when you're building in Notion, then this video is going to be for you. I'm going to walk you through some different kind of build brain types. Now, you might be all of them, you might be one of them, or you might be a couple of them, or it might change depending on what your project is. And this is hopefully going to make more sense as we work through this. So I'm going to walk you through my build brain guide, which is in Notion, and I'll leave a link to it in the description, and you won't need to use your email or anything to get hold of it. You can just grab a link to it. But let's head in and have a look. So that will be in the description. So let's start with the Spark Seeker. This is probably me, but this is not how I tend to capture information, but it might work for some people, so I'm including it. So this is when you get ideas, maybe when you're mid-podcast or doom scrolling Instagram. You maybe love to leave yourself voice notes, take screenshots and save things for later, and you maybe have 10 half-finished projects based on inspiration or ideas you've had when you're consuming content. So one thing you can do is you can use a gallery view to help you capture these ideas. So So this is a gallery view. This is a bit more complex a database, but all you would need is a media property and a text property or a link property to capture ideas quickly. So you would upload your media in the file property, you would add your link, and you would make your graphics property your cover on your gallery view so that you can see what that screenshot is quickly. And that's just a way to quickly capture ideas. That's not how I capture ideas because it's a bit of a faff to just upload images and stuff, but it is something you could do if you like that visual prompt. So next up is, I've called it the calendar kicker, I'm not sure why. So this works best for things like content where the date kind of impacts what you're doing. So whether that's like you have a blog and it goes out every Tuesday, or just if you tend to work where if it's not on the calendar it doesn't exist, or even if deadlines help you, even if those are fake deadlines, they help you to actually take action, then you might want to start with a calendar view. So my marketing or campaign calendar is a good example of this. So I started building this out in calendar view, and then I added on all these other views afterwards for measuring my marketing and actually understanding what's going on with my marketing. But I started with the calendar view because that's where you tend to start when you're planning content. And then I've got my view for working through the actual process underneath. Next up, we have the external trigger. So this one has been made possible thanks to forms, which were just brought in. I was going to say a year ago, it might be longer than that now, I'm not sure. So I built something out like this for a client recently where she gets requests, I've gone to the wrong place now, where she gets requests from clients over the phone, and she uses this form internally. So if she's speaking to a client on the phone, she'll fill this in as she's talking to them. And so we built this out with all the fields that she needed as a form, and then that builds out your database. So when you fill in the fields of the form, it's creating a database based on that form with properties for each entry, if that makes sense. And then we built out from the form outwards. So then we created views for each of her clients so that she could show clients what's going on without them seeing other clients' information. And then we built out a top level view for her as well. But we started with the form because that was what the trigger was in this instance. Next up is another way to capture ideas. So this is very similar to like if you're listening to podcasts and you get an idea. If you are constantly thinking of new offer ideas or content ideas and you want to capture them quickly, especially if you tend to think of them when you're in bed, then this is how I tend to capture ideas. So I have my product database or offer database, and I often think of new offer ideas. So I have this blank gallery view, so I'm filtered so I'm only seeing an empty cell where I can just quickly capture ideas. So we'll type capture ideas. Once I've captured my idea, it will show down here in board view. So your idea will then show up on board view in the idea section. I think it'll be at the end. capture idea. Okay, can't find it. I've got too many ideas. There we go, it was hidden at the end. Capture ideas, so we can then, maybe we want to work on it, we can move it along to InCreation, or we can archive it if it's a bad idea. So that's just how I like to capture ideas quickly, and then I can go back and work on them or discard them if they were actually terrible ideas. And lastly, we've got the table tamer. So this is if you tend to think in spreadsheets, you're used to working with Excel or Google Sheets, and that's how you tend to think. So you automatically think in like rows and columns. You like data and you love using checkboxes and tagging things and filtering things, and you just think in spreadsheets. And so an example of when I've used this to build recently is my school tracker. Oops. So I built this in table form. I started a school community just over a week ago. So I wanted to track what actions I was taking each day to grow my community and to engage my community. So I start with day one. That's the first column of my table, then the date, then things I've done to grow my community that day, and that's just a text field. And the same with engagement, that's just a text field. And then I've got a number field for tracking the number of members I have. So I just started with that. And then after a few days, about 5 days, it was getting annoying trying to figure out what day I was on. So I added a calendar view so that I could just see with the red dot exactly what day I was on. I could click today and find it easily. Then I added a chart view. Now you only get one chart with the free version of Notion, just to point that out. So the chart view is essentially showing the date and the number of members I had in my community that day, so that I can kind of see the growth. But I didn't think I wanted all that at the beginning. I just built a table and then I gradually built it out from there. And that's what's so useful about starting with a view that makes sense for the task that you're doing, if that makes sense. So again, I will leave a link to this Build Brain guide in the description. I'll also leave a link to my school community, which is called Notion for Online Business, if you want to check that out. I hope you find this useful. I just think it's a really good way to help you get started if you're kind of have all these grand ideas for a Notion build, but you feel a bit overwhelmed as to where you should start.